Welcome back to the substandard leader of Fox Body videos on this here man's YouTube. Yeah, we got stuff going on. We're working ourselves to death. You guys may remember that one of the reasons why this car was actually down was because we had broken the transmission again. We've never technically broken a gear set in a T5 in all the passes that I've made in T5 transmissions, and it's quite a few. I mean, there's people that have made more than me, I'm sure, by a long shot, but I've made my share. I've probably made more than the average bear. But we've never broken a gear. One time we ran a trans out of fluid, actually the original trans in this car. We ran it out of fluid and we hurt the input and we put a different input in it. Now, we never hurt one racing, how about that? Until we swapped to our SPEC stage 1. We had that clutch in the fail TD. You may remember we had some struggles with it, shifting at high RPM, and it was new. The clutch was really new. We also broke a shift fork in it, I think twice, and we put an amp billet third gear shift fork in it the last time we fixed it. But we decided to put the King Cobra clutch back in the fail TD. On this car, we decided to put the SPEC clutch in it since we didn't shift it as high, and in hopes that it would wear in. It would break in some and maybe loosen up a little bit and get to where at high RPM it would work better for us. And that has worked reasonably well for this car. But then we broke third gear in the car, and that, you know, was like, wow, you know, didn't just kind of whatever. We went through some breakage on the car with control arm bolt and stuff, so we bent one, and then we broke the transmission, and we just kind of whatever put a different transmission in, and we broke third gear again. So now I'm like, whoa, okay, so the common denominator here was the SPEC clutch. Shimming clutches is always can be tricky. I've personally never done it, so I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert clutch guy. There's tons of information out there. There's the people that really know stuff about it don't talk about it a lot. But as far as shimming the pressure plate to soften up the hip, and I don't think it needs much, because we haven't had any problems with the car technically shifting. It's just that there's something going on with third gear, that when it snaps, it snaps. So it pops and breaks the trans. So our solution at the moment is to shim the pressure plate. We're going to use like a 10,000th shim. David actually gave me, it's a shim, a peeler shim that goes for some kind of gun in the military, some kind of aircraft gun. And it's big, so I'm not sure what it went to, but it was a used shim that they had. There was some life left on it, so I peeled off basically a 10,000th, and it's already got holes drilled in it, which is great for me, because then I can just clip it, and that's what we're going to do. We could use a clutch tamer, but you know, I don't want to have to buy one. Technically speaking, I have one, but I'm going to try the shim. So we've got to pull the transmission back out. We're going to put the aluminum flywheel back in. It drives me crazy that it's sitting there. Krusty's not going to be going anytime soon, so I'm like, this clutch and pressure plate's just sitting there. I should, and flywheel, and that'll put the car back pretty much where it was when it ran pretty good. We're getting into some cooler weather now, so I'm getting a little antsy about, you know, getting this car going and seeing what it can do. Having said all of that, we got to pull the transmission out to change the clutch and flywheel. So rather than just pull the trans, I'm going to pull the motor and trans out. We're going to swap to the BBKs that I was originally going to put on Krusty with these with the yee-yees and all this kind of stuff. We're going to put those headers on. We're going to put an oil pan on it, and we're going to do the flywheel and clutch while the motor and stuff's out. It's 6 one way, half a dozen another, almost, to do it like that. It's probably, for me, it's a little easier in my mind, because I can do it all right here. and then just stick it all back in the car rather than piecemealing it, and especially the oil pan. So that's probably the big thing that killed 2 or 3 birds with one stone, because I wanted to put the oil pan on the car. This gives me a perfect opportunity to do it. So there we go. What it all boils down to is a bunch of work, a bunch of time-consuming work for a little bit of gains. But then once this is all done and we've got it all back together, hopefully it won't break the transmission. Hopefully that'll be good. We'll take it up and we'll test it next weekend. That's the goal. Pyre will be back in town, like I said in the previous video. Pyre will be back in town. We're going to go up. We're going to test. The weather looks great so far. We're going to go up. We're going to test. We're hopefully going to run some good numbers. And then following that, we'll bring it back and we'll take the heads off and put the yee-yees on. And then we'll see where we're at. We've also got some more weight loss stuff that we've got percolating around in our head. It's just a money thing. So hopefully when we get to that point, we'll have been able to procure a few more items for our weight loss program. So ultimately, I don't want to say the goal is to try and outrun what the Fay LTD did, but you got to have goals, and that would be a goal for this car, is to run a 649 with a 9, naturally aspirated with 40 GT40s on it, an ancient camshaft, an ancient intake, and my fat self behind the wheel. Gotta have goals, and that would be our goal. 649 with a 9. We're getting to the weather point. We just gotta get the car to the car point and get the driver to the driver point, and then we'll have a perfect triangle of success, hopefully. So I'm gonna start working on this. We'll time lapse and do some stuff and things like that. And so now you guys know everything that everything that I have planned for this car for the next probably couple weeks is what we're gonna do. Oil pan, headers, flywheel clutch. We're gonna put the hatch on the car, and then after we go test it, we're gonna put the heads on it. And then while we're going through this, we're probably gonna do some lightweight stuff. We'll probably look at doing the brakes, the brake booster deal, get rid of that and stuff along the way. So first things first though, we gotta get this done. So let me get to work. We still gotta make headlight covers. That was a lot of talking, wasn't it, guys? I wanna know who carried this brick around. Henry? It was Henry, wasn't it? I know it was. He looked like a guy carrying a brick. Hood off, got the rat out, started unplugging stuff, get the carb off of it, then get the transmission cross member, get the drive shaft out of it. Transmission cross member unbolted, get the shifter unbolted, get the mufflers knocked off of it, unbolt the starter from the solenoid. We'll be ready to pull this rig out. All right, me and the Dags, we just got to take the motor mount bolts loose, and then we got to do the undercar stuff. Me and the Dags have been at it. We've got a box fan here in case we get mad and we feel like kicking it. So far, no big deal. I'm just kind of moving at a slow pace, no big rush. Now I've already talked myself into we're not going to be racing this weekend. I'm just like, so now we're going to jack it up, and then we can start working under the car. Grabbing this out of the shop, out of the garage, because I brought it home, and I figured this was as good a time as any to talk about it real quick. This is the oil pan. This is the oil pan that is going on the Pro Stock car. After doing some research on the aluminum pan that I had bought years ago, the reason it doesn't have a crank scraper, you can't run the crank scraper with a windage tray. With a main girdle. So, my original intent was to put this oil pan in the Fay LTD with main girdle and a special windage tray that bolts to the Canton main girdle. So also Canton's stuff all works together. What I didn't know was that if you use the main girdle, then you have to have the crank scraper cut off of this. Now, according to Canton, you also can't use a standard or they do not make a windage tray that works with this crank scraper with this oil pan. So if you run this oil pan, you basically can't run a Canton windage tray. And I don't know if there's any windage tray that'll fit. I don't know that. I haven't investigated it. Maybe an old Mac one or something like that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over it. So what we are going to do is we're going to put the aluminum oil pan in the FLTD. We're going to have a piece just welded into it, and just for a baffle, and we'll use our main girdle, and we'll use our windage tray, and that'll go in the FLTD. So now I'm going to put this in the Pro Stock car. I thought about putting them like in the Love Boat or something, but it just doesn't fit that car to me, for me personally. Plus, that car doesn't have stock. That car has a stock Lincoln K member in it and all this kind of stuff. And while I don't think there will be any fitment issues based on just eyeballing it with a stock pan, why take a chance? So we'll use this oil pan. We know it'll work. It was in Dragon for 100 years. It'll fit everything, K member, headers, the whole deal. It's a no-brainer to do it. So the other thing is also that David has on that particular engine, when he put the oil pan on, he used studs, which that helps us out because our this thing you have to run up, it's got plugs in it on one side. So to get to these bolts, you have to, put a ratchet up through it and stuff like that. So that the stud simplifies things for us, probably. So anyway, that's what we're, two birds with one stone. We're going to put this on while we're doing our clutch and our flywheel swap. And then those headers will go on it as well. And I'll just feel better about, what we're bringing to the track. I was just not feeling it, putting that stock clutch and stuff in there. I kind of felt like I was not making a mistake, but just not going the direction that I wanted to be in when I did that. Of course, Krusty was more really at the forefront at the moment, and I'm not rushing David on the heads or anything like that. He's got a lot of stuff he's working on, his own stuff. So when he gets done with them, he'll get done with them. So it's not a big deal. This car's not going anywhere. I'm not getting rid of it. Don't want to get rid of it. Probably won't ever get rid of it. It'll always be here, and it'll end up in some form. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Would this be a good candidate for 351? I think it would be. I mean, that's not something that I've thought about a whole lot, but I'm like, hey, I'll have that motor, we'll do Krusty's motor, and maybe we'll put 351 in it. I don't know. 351's up in the air as to where to land. I've already had 3 or 4 destinations in my head as to where it would go. Thought about putting it in the FLTD, thought about putting it in Pro Stock, thought about putting it in Trojan originally, thought about I don't think that's gonna happen. I think we're just gonna kind of stay with the nitrous Trojan versus silver car kind of a thing, with the nitrous and the blower stuff. I think we'll just kind of let them kind of run parallel to each other and see where we end up. I feel good about that plan, that idea, or that vision. That I feel okay with that. But thought about putting 321 in this car. I don't know. We've got a lot of different stuff we could do. So just I don't truly know. So, but it's an option. So, but this pan is going in Pro Stock. That's a fact. We know that for a fact now. So just want to point that out. This is what we're putting on. Let's get back to work. We're fixing to knock drive shaft out. Mufflers are off, drive shaft's out, motor mount bolts are done. So pretty much everything's unhooked. We just got to dig the hoist out and then hook it up and take the trans cross member loose and see if we can tug it out. All right, we got it dug out. I think the last time we used this thing was maybe pulling the engine out of Teresa's car. We were 5-speed swapping it. I don't know, it's been a while. But we'll get the chain. Probably we'll go get the chain and see what we got going on here. See if we can get this lump out. Driver's side headers wedge, so I'm gonna have to pop that off. Well, that was relatively painless. Now we've get the header off, get the starter off, pull the trans off, pull the bell housing off, then we can do the clutch, and then we can start working on the oil pan. Made a little bit of progress. I'm sure watching the time lapses, people are probably screaming to themselves, get a 1/4 inch impact. Don't worry guys, it's gonna be all right. Just like right now. This builds character. Let's put it in a relation to racing. Quarter inch impact. It's automatic. Anybody can use it. Anybody can do it. It's simple. I see little kids on YouTube working on their dad's cars using 1/4 inch impact to ratchet stuff down. This is stick shift driving. It requires some work. It requires some concentration. It requires some sacrifice. The results are satisfying, at least in my opinion, because you're turning it yourself. You know how tight it is. You know if it's cross-threaded, and then decide to keep going. You know? When you take it apart, when you say, I turned a wrench on this thing, or I turned a wrench on every bolt, you actually did turn the wrench. Not, hey, I impacted every bolt in. I didn't actually do any work. I just stood there and pulled the trigger. The most work I actually did was changing the battery in and out, but I digress. So, when you're doing it like this, you can say, hey, I literally did do that. Now, technically speaking, I'm using a ratchet, so that is, in some ways, mildly cheating. But it'd be okay if I can find this other bolt. Where's that? There it is. After that little speech I just gave, some things you do have to use the impact on. But this is a big boy impact. But I can break these loose by hand and take them out. I just chose not to on this particular thing. Yeah. All right. Phew. Okay. I think that's I don't know, I might drain the oil out of it, and then tomorrow we'll sorry about the compressor. Then tomorrow we'll change the oil pan and the pickup, and I gotta remember to put something in the block, to, a bolt with some RTV or something, and then we can put the flywheel on, clutch on it. Probably set the headers down in the car, and then set the motor down in, and then bolt the headers up. May have it running tomorrow. There we go. May have it running tomorrow. See how it goes. Like I say, no big hurry, no schedule. So But if we can have it running tomorrow, oh, sorry. We can have it running tomorrow, then we can test drive it the next day. So, we'll see. We'll get where we'll get. All right. Sorry. I get sidetracked thinking. We'll see you guys in the next clip. It is the next morning, and we are working on it. We got the pan off. We'll reuse our oil pan gasket. It's not in the best shape, not in as good a shape as I thought it was, but we're going to reuse it anyway. The studs going to be a big help. Now we're fixing to knock the pickup off. We've got a gasket for that, and we'll put our new pickup on, and then we'll start putting our oil pan back on. Our new oil pan, new to us, new to this motor, new to this engine. Got our pickup on. This also has a hardened oil pump shaft in it. David put that in when he when he put the changed the oil pump and stuff like that. If it didn't have a hardened oil pump shaft, I would definitely put one in. That's one of the things. If you've ever got the pan off your small block Ford and it's in a Mustang, or you're racing it, or you're turning it, put one of those in. I've twisted 2, maybe 3 oil pump shafts, twizzled them up. They break, they're not great. So it can keep you from having some issues. So anyway, it's already got one, so we ain't got to worry about that. Now we just got to start get our pan prepped up and ready to go. Alrighty, we have got one more bolt to put in the back plug, one more nut I should say, and then we'll be able to put our plugs in and we'll be good to go. So then we can just let the RTV set. We're going to go eat lunch, and then we can come back and we start putting the clutch and stuff on. Oil pan is on, and sad to say, this is probably the hardest part of the job, was the worst part of the job, so at least it's on. Hey, well, we're fixing to go eat lunch. Green for the money, gold for the honeys. This video is already kind of long. There's some preliminary editing on it. It's already getting up there, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now, and then when we get back from lunch, we'll be starting a new vid where we finish up putting everything in the car. Maybe fire it up today, maybe not. If not, it'll be in the morning. But the hard part, at least for me in my mind, the hard part is done. The oil pan is on. That was by far the most difficult part of the job, because you're working under it. Putting it on an engine stand would have been preferable. Don't have an extra stand here at the facility. I actually don't have an extra stand at all. Dragon motor's on one. The old motor from way back in the days on another, and 351 is on my third engine stand, so I just don't have another engine stand. Anyway, thanks for commenting, thanks for subscribing, thanks for all the ways you guys support the channel. We've got some stuff in the mail from some other subscribers that'll go in another video. I don't want you to think I think I forgot about you. Even stuff that was sent to me months ago that we just haven't put in a video. Sorry. But you guys send stuff, we certainly appreciate it. Helps move our projects forward. And it's not especially, but also, thanks for watching. Until next time with Substandard Leader and Box Body Videos. It's kind of warm today. On this here man's YouTube, 1 year only Lincolns and 1 year only drag vans. Oh, a guy went by in a Mustang the other day on the interstate cruising. I was in Brain. I don't pay nobody no mind. He went by, and a Lincoln Town car was flying behind him, old school. I was like, oh, watch out, they're catching on. I knew it was bound to happen. So we'll see you guys in the next vid.